Extreme global hunger. The UN warns that some of the poorest areas of the world have zero harvests left, Michael Snyder reports. In 2015, UN officials have established a goal of completely eliminating global hunger by the year 2030. Needless to say, they have failed dramatically. According to the UN, someone is dying from starvation every few seconds as the global food crisis continues to accelerate. Unfortunately, experts agree that we are experiencing right now, what we're experiencing is just the beginning, because land is being degraded at a staggering pace. And as you'll see below, 40% of the world's land is already degraded, and it's expected that figure will reach 95% by the year 2050. Here in the Western world, we can still use various methods to temporarily improve the quality of our soil, but the head of the UN World Food Programme says that in some of the poorest parts of the planet, we have already reached a point where there are zero harvests left. Droughts and flooding have become so common in some of the poorest places on Earth that the land can no longer sustain crops, the director of the World Food Programme Global Office has said. Martin Frick told the BBC that some of the most deprived areas had now reached a tipping point of having zero harvests left, as extreme weather has pushed already degraded land beyond use. He said that as a result, parts of Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America were now dependent on humanitarian aid. Sadly, it won't be too long before most of the land in wealthier nations is degraded too, and according to an article that was posted by the BBC last week, it's being projected that 95% of the world's land could become degraded by 2050. The Global Environment Facility estimates that 95% of the world's land could become degraded by 2050. The UN says that 40% is already degraded. While soil degrades, the organic matter that binds it together dies off. This means that it's less able to support plant life, reducing crop yields and absorb carbon from the atmosphere. So what happens when 95% of all global land is degraded? We are done. According to the chief science officer of environmental group Save Soil, when we get to that point, it's going to be like Mad Max. It's going to be disaster for human beings. Pravina Sridhar, chief science officer of environmental group Save Soil, said, it's going to be like Mad Max. She added, there will be no humanity, there will be no charity, there will be no fairness. The only thing that lets you would be survival. And she's right. Now, I've been trying to warn about this for years, but when I write about the soil, it doesn't tend to get much attention. If you want to get an idea of what our future will be like, just look at what is happening in Sudan right now. It's being estimated that 5% of the entire population of the country could starve to death by the end of this year. As of now, more than half of the country's 45 million people urgently need humanitarian assistance. In May, the United Nations warned that 18 million Sudanese are acutely hungry, including 3.6 million children who are acutely malnourished. The western region of Darfur, where the threat is greatest, is nearly cut off from humanitarian aid, and according to one projection, as much as 5% of Sudan's population could die of starvation by the end of the year. In previous articles, I've described how some people in Sudan are literally using water to roll dirt into a ball and then eating it just to have something in their stomachs. Linda Thomas Greenfield, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, is warning that in Darfur and Kordofan, more than 2.5 million people could perish by the end of the month of September. The Ethiopian famine killed 1 million people between 1983 and 1985, according to UN estimates. Thomas Greenfield said that in a worst-case scenario, a famine in Sudan could become even more lethal. We've seen mortality projections estimated that in excess of 2.5 million people, about 15% of the population in Darfur and Kordofan, the hardest hit regions, could die by the end of September, the ambassador said. This is the largest humanitarian crisis on the face of the planet, and yet somehow it threatens to get worse, she said. Hardly anyone in the Western world even knows this is happening, And that is because the big media outlets are deeply focused on other matters. In addition to the catastrophic decline of the quality of our soil, global food production is also being threatened by absolutely insane weather patterns. In Mexico, an all-time record for the entire country has broken last week when the temperatures in the Sonora Desert hit a whopping 125 degrees. That's a low oven, obviously. Last week, Mexico recorded the hottest day in its history. Scientists have stated, with temperatures in the Sonoran Desert hitting 125 degrees Fahrenheit. These extraordinary temperatures, measured by Shel Winkley, a meteorologist at Climate Central, were part of a deadly heat wave that has swept across Mexico, Central America, and the southwestern United States, killing 125 people. And in the United States here, the largest dust storm that our scientists have ever seen just ripped through the state of New Mexico. All eyes were on New Mexico Wednesday as a unique weather event swept through the region, enveloping many cities across the state in a thick brown haze momentarily. The dust storm, also known as a haboob, hit New Mexico and northern Mexico, carving 200 miles path through the area in seconds, according to satellite video footage obtained by USA Today. Scientists in the area were more surprised by the haboob's size than its pace, with a couple revealing on social media that it was the largest dust storm they had ever seen. For a long time we've been warned that dust bowl conditions would be returning, and now it's happening. In the Midwest, they're facing a different sort of a problem. Catastrophic flooding has hit the region, and this is causing tremendous chaos in farming communities all over the heartland of America. In Rock Valley, Iowa, all homes north of Highway 18 were evacuated amid high floodwater Saturday. I cannot even believe what I'm seeing right now, said Daniel Hetritter, who evacuated his neighborhood in Spencer on Saturday. As water in his home reached shin deep, he flagged down a boat to come pick him up, his wife and cat up, he said. On Saturday, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds issued a disaster proclamation for 21 counties in northwest Iowa and directed all available state resources to assist Rock Valley and other communities in response to catastrophic flooding. On top of everything else, the major global wars that are coming will greatly disrupt food production and food distribution all over the planet. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that global famines are already here, and they're going to get far worse during the years ahead. Enormous numbers of people going to die from starvation, and those that are wise will prepare while they still have an opportunity to do so. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial new book entitled Chaos is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times, and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.